Tuesday, the 26th, August 2025. It's 3:02 p.m. He has some wounds here. I still don't know what that's all about, but anyways, it's so how much different shaped my face is depending on where I'm holding the camera. So I was live on my laptop today already, but it's not posting. I was talking about the North Sea and also how I think my enemies might really enjoy turning on my broadcast. Oh my god, there's a weird bug on me. I don't know where it went. Because you could see I get bit by weird bugs, and have you guys seen these before? Yeah. Anyways, so talking about my lack of appetite because of all of the creatures disturbing me quite a bit. Some of my symptoms include fangs in the neck, prodding in my brain, sores in my elbows, like there's tubes in there. I have aches in my knees, and I have swelling and pressure in my belly. I'm very uncomfortable physically. I'm very uncomfortable. Like, it's adding up to the point where it's really becoming quite something. You know, like in and of itself, I walked around with a swollen belly for, I don't even know, 10, 15 years or something. But back then, the worst, that I really cared to think about was like having like sweaty palms and smelly feet. That was like pretty much it, These days, it's much, much worse than that. So my de-bloat medicine by Midol came in today. So I'm taking Allegra for hives, Midol for bloat. I'm on some probiotic, and I got Alka-Seltzer for hangover, and some like, knockoff acetaminophen something. But really sort of trying to make some headway with the over-the-counter drugstore pharmacy options. Well, it is because I have mostly only ever like dropped money on like cosmetics or like skincare stuff. I mean, like clothes stuff. I never really spent too much time with medicines, because my symptoms felt like so much worse than that. And it is now. The difference is that I recognize people's lack of compassion as a signal to make any teeny tiny sort of investment in the system, or what do you call it, the not market, but it's about medicine. And I've had a lot of sort of like propaganda like slung my way about like experimental stuff. Is there something on my neck right now? Right here? Because I'm about ready to start throwing bows. I need some freaking, like, what they're calling now is nerve relief. And, you know, I really consider myself very, like, holistic when it comes to medicine. But the enemy is not natural and is not patient and is not thoughtful. And so basically, these over-the-counter products are as good as casting a spell, which might be the most you could contribute to, you know, a remedy. You know, if it's about psychological warfare, or if it's about, you know, magic and things like this, then paying money for the intention of finding a resolution, you know, there's a pretty high probability of efficacy there, just because they are generally so heartless and lazy. It's interesting how suggestive the antagonist is for how mostly, you know, careless. So basically, I've not been offered medicine very many times. I had been in therapy and I had been offered a prescription once. You know, I have been to actual doctor's visits and I've been, you know, offered a prescription. But as far as, you know, an unprofessional opinion, the most I've received is like, you know, rub dirt in it, basically. That's how it feels. But I am someone who does try really hard to exercise self-care. And so it's really just sort of like a matter of fact that since I have done so much to reduce costs and to simplify my spending, you know, I'm not shopping like I had when I was employed and things like this. And so it's just a matter of, you know, reallocating or imagining, reorganizing my sort of spending habits. I'm not in a position to spend in the way that I did when I was making my own money. And so I do have to sort of um, think of it a little bit differently. Um, I'm hoping that, you know, uh, it will work. I'm not really sure how long I should be doing this stuff for. I had been prescribed like Claritin when I was younger or stuff like that. Um, I got Flonase still, and that used to be a prescription, and now it isn't. And so, it's really difficult, but I think mostly if, you exercise some caution and are, being genuine about, um, you know, being healthy, um, these things, it's like on the one hand, it's like, oh, it's too accessible, it's dangerous, like if it's actually in your hands. But the difference being that, like, if you are actually responsible for, your own procurement, um, it's ridiculous. Like, the difference between someone who is, you know, consciously always having to, you know, replenish or, acquire things versus someone who is under the impression that things are provided and that, they want for nothing or whatever. It's just like a very, very different lifestyle. And my thing is that, uh, you know, I don't think it's fair to ask children to um, be concerned with all kinds of, household provisions because, basically the way I see it is that I've never known anybody in my, life who has really been determined to make their way. Nobody I've known has been like very ambitious. They're very, slow to get going. They're not very concerned about their progress. They don't have much to say as far as developments go. And so, you know, anytime I'd ask people, what's going on, they get really defensive and they say, we got it taken care of, or we already do that, or, that's impolite to talk about that, or, well, we always have help, shit like this. And it's like, if you ever, if you ever cognizantly continued to make that argument, is just, what I've always known to be true, which is that you don't try to. There's a very big difference between someone who's constantly trying to provide for themselves and someone who is not very concerned. You do not think the same way. You don't even consume oxygen the same way. There's literally nothing about those two kinds of people that should be compared because it's someone who either has trauma or some kind of emergency and someone who could not be bothered. And they should never, ever have to compete for resources because facts are that they're not playing the same game. A person who can smile in the face of someone who is vehement or distraught, like I can't even, like, You don't see that there's a problem? Like, how are you gonna be so fucking jovial with me? Like, this is insane. You know, like, separate those people. They do not need to play together. Shit.